Am I audible now, Mr. Dhawan?
Yes, you are very clear.
Welcome, viewers. Once again, we discuss very important point. The subject is very relevant, very topical, and in International Council for Industrial Security and Safety Management, it is our endeavor to make our professionals more like professionals. Our motto is, let us professionalize the professionals. Drones are now dual-edged weapons. They can save and they can destroy. Small drones are big challenge and bigger drones are bigger challenge for Homeland Security and for defense forces. The commercial and responsible use of drones will facilitate many service sectors with increased payloads and greater reach. We will discuss the recent changes in DGCS Rules, Directorate General of Civil Aviation, DGCS Rules. What are the positives and negative impacts of these changes which are recently announced? With us to discuss this subject and entire gamut of drone operation, we have Mr. Anil Dhawan, who has more than 3 decades of experience in the security industry. He is immediate past president of Asian Professional Security Association, APSA, India chapter 2010-2012, as well as immediate past vice chairman of Overseas Security Council, OSAC. Presently, he is co-chairman Homeland Security Committee of ASSOCHAM. He has served world's largest security provider, Group for Securitas, for 21 years as managing director and was its first employee in India. He is advisor to Kerala Academy for Skill Excellence and advisor International Police Expo and serves as member in Civil Aviation Committee. Currently, he is an entrepreneur and he is managing director of DV Secure Solutions Private Limited. His contact details are given in the description box. Let's discuss the subject. And Mr. Dhawan, you are most welcome once again to the initiative of ICISS. How do you see the changes? These are positive changes or these are negative changes?
Namaskar, Mr. Tyagi, and a very good afternoon to all the participants. It's a privilege to be called on this forum and my views being looked into. But honestly speaking, I'm not one who is the total expert on this subject. But yes, I'm a very strong enthusiastic or stakeholder or a participant into this field. So I'll try my best to share with you what I see here. Mr. Tyagi, you started your introductions with the word drones as two-edged weapons, and now you asked me also specifically as how I see. My submission would be, could I just very quickly take you through the entire this current perspective of how the changes have happened and how they look at it, and probably from there on we could be in a better position to be specific, and I'll try my best to comment. Drones as two-edged weapons. My take is not different to this, honestly speaking, but maybe with a small rider. Here, I would say that any technology development has two sides of performance on human society. Take the case of mobile phones, how fast it has developed and strongly adopted today in our society. Although most of us know it has a very serious ill effects besides health hazard, uh, yet none of us can afford to live without a mobile. Probably for that reason that its benefits or advantages are far more likable than its ill effects, even though those ill effects are serious, hazardous, and painful. I see the development of drones, UAV, much on the similar path. It is, I call it as it is another majestic creation of humankind to facilitate secure, safe, and comfortable living of human being using technology. That's the reason government is giving very strong and right attention to. This so-called new rule is one of the very important initiative by the Ministry of Civil Aviation in that direction. The central government announced this on around 26th August as new drone rules 2021. The new drone rules are the, I would say, latest progressive ones that will significantly transfer from the Indian landscape for drones. So that's a very good step. These directives have come, obviously being important, via gadget notification by the government, wherein the Civil Aviation Ministry has passed the new drone rules 2021, with which will replace the unmanned aircraft system rules 2021. These new drone rules were announced by the government, interestingly and very rightly, after taking comments from the industry stakeholders. The new rules were appreciated by the stakeholders for simplifying the procedures and for reducing the burden to operate a drone in India. It may not be out of perspective to mention that Prime Minister Modi himself tweeted that the new rules will help the startups and the youths working in this sector. Innovation and now, before I go, or probably it would be appropriate to broadly sort of review these very briefly as what all these new rules have brought in. If I list them, they start with now you don't need very strict security clearances required before registration or license issuance. Earlier, that was mandatory of having a security clearance. Then there was fees for permission, which has now been considerably reduced to very nominal levels. And again, there was a penalty in case you break any laws. Those have now been brought to a maximum level of 1 lakh. However, it will not be applicable to penalties in respect to violation of other related laws. From a point of its effectiveness, coverage of drones have now been increased from 300 kg to 500 kg to include heavy payload carrying drones and drone taxis, which we most of us feel very excited in talking. So, taxis would come. So and so is now planning for taxis, and we will be able to really win on the traffic jams. Well, how much effective and how correct it will be, will come into that later in the discussion. But now, one of the major things they have done is from 300 kg to 500 kg they've gone. And I personally feel that most of the advantages applications are directly related to two factors in drone. One is the payload capacity, and other is the capacity to let the drone run, whether it is on battery or any other source. These two aspects are very, very challenging, and here this would help that capacity has been increased. From security point of view, the airspace map had been defined for what is allowed to be flown, which area it has to be flown, what height. In that again, they've brought some changes. The interactive airspace map, which they define with green, red, and yellow zones, will be displayed on the Digital Sky platform. I hope most of you are familiar with the Digital Sky platform. It's one of the portals on which the most related informations with respect to drone are available. So on those, these green, red, and yellow days are very clearly indicative. But what is encouraging is the yellow line under new rule has been reduced now from 45 kilometers to only 12 kilometers from the airport perimeter. Now, on one side, it does look that airports are sensitive, and when it comes to the other aspects of ill effects of drones, those type of things, it has to be protected. But then, practically seen, I think it is right that anything beyond 12 kilometers would not be that difficult or would not be that risky. So they have reduced from 45 kilometers to 12 kilometers, and no permission will be required for operating a drone in the green zone and up to 200 feet in the area between 8 and 10, 12 kilometers from the airport perimeter. So again, for this green zone, we could go up to 8 kilometers, but at a maximum height of 200 feet. So what it reflects is that the area of operations has now been further liberalized, and I do not see at all by compromising by security. I see it again from the tremendous opportunities we all otherwise know the drones could bring into various areas. Another aspect that has been bought is online registration of all the drones will happen through the Digital Sky platform. The easy process has also been prescribed for transfer and deregistration of drones. Now, that aspect of deregistrations might look to be a little, unusual, but again, it shows that to maintain a discipline in the entire functioning and operation and regulation, that opportunity has also been given. That if somebody is not operating it and does not want to be there, then those deregistration facility has also been left rather than leaving it and unnecessary reflecting ghost operators. Under new rules, an opportunity for regularization of existing drones in India has now been introduced. No pilot license will now be required for operating nano drones and micro drones for non-commercial use. Nano and micro drones are categories of drones in terms of the sizes and capacities. So for these, again, no pilot licenses, which I feel is very encouraging. The reason I say this is because earlier it meant was mandatory to have licensed pilots. I personally a strong believer of promoting licensed pilot to handle this, but it may not be wrong to say that looking at the entire interest in the industry, the anxiety, the demands are growing so fast, and parallelly, how many pilots properly qualified, trained, and licensed, I feel there is a gap. And that way, a particular category has been allowed to be flown. It doesn't mean that one would endorse anyone flying it and sort of creating a risk, but it does mean that people who are trained to handle that and do not have a license can still fly that. Training and getting qualified is a very important aspect. So in the drones new rules, all drones training and examinations will be carried out by an authorized drone school. A Director General of Civil Aviation will prescribe training requirements, provide pilot license online, and oversee drone schools. So this way, the process of applying, the necessity of having the license from security point of view, and monitoring all has been again addressed in these rules, which shows very rightly looked at. And most important then is the import of drones will be regulated by Director General of Foreign Trade, DGFT, so that the drones have been bought by right people and by right channel and being monitored. So these are the rules, and you would have seen in my tone that most of these I personally feel are very encouraging and very right step. But having said this, and going back to what Mr. Tyagi was asking, is how I see these. I still see there are many challenges, and they need to be looked at into. And I don't say these challenges as a lacuna or as something which they have missed out on it. I see that maybe in the next step these should be considered. Uh, Before I say that, I would like to, in the right technical terms, like to define, what a drone is. We all know, we have seen drones. We play. Some of us are very familiar. We play or we use or we are stakeholders. But in true technical terms, a drone is an unmanned aircraft. Essentially, drone is a flying robot that can be remotely controlled or fly autonomously through software, control flight plans in their embedded systems, working in conjunction with onboard sensors and GPS. So you can imagine, uh, on one side, what looks to be a very interesting tool to see it, to watch it from a point of flying like a bird and having a command on it to make it go wherever you want to. I believe this is how it started. It is programmed. It has technology to really do what it wants. And when you go into high-end applications, those things have to be very precise. So when I said there are challenges, what I exactly meant. Well, I also said that these, I would imagine, would be coming in future considerations of the authorities. Now, before I go into the challenges, I would say that drone industry, the drone business, the drone demand should be looked from a point, not only from the point of the object drone. It should be looked from the point of what it does, the concept. For example, the security, most of us come from the security, I would imagine, not all, would also agree that when it comes to security, we have to see the concept, what we are trying to do, cover a risk. So it's a case of a more of a service of the drone that we need to actually register in mind. What service are we looking at from a drone? Today the excitement levels are so high that we think of so many different things, and we believe in talking and we believe in it will happen. Yes, most of them would happen, but it are subjective to many other factors. Broadly today, these are looked from security point of view. I feel in various areas, not one area, in various security applications. Transport point of view, again, various applications areas, whether it's a question of small packets to be transferred or to large packets to be transferred, but again, point to point transportations of these packets, and sometimes from a point of medical transport, so they have to be carried in the right ecosystem. Then traffic is looking, traffic management and many other aspects in traffic, from analysis research point of view. Traffic is another area. Infrastructure development, drones have got amazing requirements. Simple examples are like power cables being today put in those large towers that we see, on which practically to put those heavy transmission cables, drones help them. Then mining is another very important area from different aspects of mining. Defense, I don't have to quote, we all have seen, heard a few instant of the other side of this drone, which had happened. Disaster management, this is a great tool in disaster management today, to specific see the real happening, which probably a person in charge may not be able to force see it immediately. The drone can help them. Border protection, agriculture is a great strong area. I'm sure most of you must have heard about those those risks that had come because of the tiddas affecting the various crops, and then the insecticides had to be sprayed into specific areas where human being could not go so easily with spraying machines. 3D mapping, wireless internet access they facilitate, and research in national science. So these lists, what I'm trying to say, reflect a certain type of work the drone would do, what I call it as an application. So we must look at now in really defining these applications more from how drones would go in, what all drones would do, and how best can they do. Those type of things have to look to make it a big success, which will not only be completed from the point of rules only. We have to see into that those areas also. Otherwise, there will be a playground, and there would be reasons to play, but how to play and how to score would not happen. One easy example I would give is on a daily basis. If we see uh, the number of government requirement in terms of tenders are coming is so strong that any new businessman would like to enter into this and say, hey, why not I start this business and go into it, and I have my contacts, I can get this. And yeah, that's not a wrong thought. But then it may not be wrong to say that many of these tenders, when it comes to their getting opened and discussed, land into a gap where the decisions gets delayed, or probably they go into retendering. And the reason, unfortunate, has been that the exact understanding of the requirement and what a drone can do probably are still not that well aware of, and that creates a problem. So this is an area which is, I won't say has come because of the rules, but it has been there, and this has to be addressed in future also. One way to look at it, it can be done by a joint effort of the industry players, stakeholders, and by the government. And such a platform should promote very strongly. So at this stage, I think this is what I would like to bring when it comes to what is still missing. Another very important aspect, and which is very, very effective at this moment, is this easy and correct sourcing of these drones. I repeat, easy and correct sourcing of these drones. It should not be just a flying machine with a payload picked up from a general importer who is importing, or an amateurist bringing it, or a hobbyist doing it. It's happening at the moment, and I don't see it is wrong. It's a reflection of what this technology is making people excited, and they are doing their job. But those should not be the sources today. The reason it is that to make it successful, it has to be proper. For example, it should not be any brand, any model lacking operation and maintenance support. But at this stage, probably when these tenders, most of these tenders, it is happening is that when the bidders who have quoted and those who are lowest, they come out with the solutions which are so different among each, when comparison becomes difficult to take a decision. Not because nobody wanted to quote the correct one, but probably the specifications were not so complete in itself. So even though this doesn't relate directly to rules, it leads to the knowledge into the industry, and knowledge is happening, but somebody has to take this industry really very focused and move forward. It should, for example, it should not be one imported directly or indirectly. What I call is a manufacturing heaven, China. Just because it's I'm not against China, and I'm not saying we should not bring drones from China, but just because it is the lowest, and it can come easily and we bring in, then when it fails, or when we need parts, when we need regular supports, those things should be there. So probably instead of this, it should be a well-defined flying carrier with quality sensors, reliable GPS, and fully designed to carry the payload. A unit, the trained pilots are hands on in operation. They love it. They say, okay, this one. A machine that has readily available maintenance and support. So these are part of the ecosystem, but they have to bring in to look at the overall success. But yes, these drones, this particular rules have brought a lot of life and strength into it, and it is more of betterment rather than looking on anything else. If anything is still required, I would imagine would happen in the next stage from the authorities. Sorry, I can't hear you. उनका वॉइस नहीं आ रहा. Sir, I can't hear you. I don't know if participants. Can you hear me? Flying cameras as well. Yes. What are the loopholes you see in the DGCA regulations? Is what I read. I can't. Unfortunately, I can't. I can't read. I can't hear Captain Tyagi. Well, I think we have to understand that rules that have come in the form of you know developing the playground of for this industry. They've come in to start promoting drones, and they've come in to encourage drones. They've come in to solve where the issues are. So I do not see anything which is a loophole. I do see that more can be brought in, and that's why I touched the point of the concept and try to highlight as, how from a success point of view, where the future focus should go. Now, though that can go more from the industry point of view and the industry doing it. By the way, I must also mention that globally there are organizations which work together, like in any industry, and there's one organization very well known in this field, and that is the World Federation of UAV, which has also now recognized India as one chapter, and I'm very active, and we are establishing that in terms of infrastructure, and such forums can really help in to give more focus on these areas. And I would in fact suggest to the participants also that currently this forum is being built up for India. So those who are interested, they can write to me also on this, and we will register them. So this is one I took an example to explain. But when it comes to loopholes, honestly, that's not the right word I would look in these. In those, I think the Civil Aviation Ministry, the Secretariat in particular, has done amazing work. Why? Because in such a short time, they've brought in so much into it, and it will help to take forward. It's all, it is to do with regular, to do with operations, it has to do with training, it has to do with encouraging business by way of registration, and so I think it's a very comprehensive aspect of the entire rules for the industry. See, are these determinant to security of critical infrastructure? The answer is both yes and no. I say this because actual answer is no, but why I say yes is because my statement should not be read from a point that I feel the infrastructures are totally today protected from the fear of drones. No, I'm not saying that at all. But I think I'm not wrong in saying that security of an infrastructure is not limited to coming of drone or not, drones being there or not being there. Yes, it does matter when drones come because it does facilitate. So for that, then counter mechanisms comes, and counter mechanisms have come in, and they have their own strength and weaknesses on it. I think these rules at the moment are safeguarding where probably the infrastructures by way of operations of the drones could have been affected. I think they are covering it very well. But anything beyond that has to be seen from a physical solution point of view. So I in fact see these rules are helping to cover. Imagine if the rules would have come and ignored sensitive areas, if they had come and ignored the definitions of the zones, then yes, one would have said why they have been ruled, but such a thing has not happened. So I if I would not say that they are sort of strengthening the infrastructure security, I would definitely say that they are not compromising at all on the infrastructure security. Green zones would be how green zones are to be monitored. Well, green zones would be monitored, as I said, by even small size drones would be allowed into those, and up to 200 feet. So I think these they have taken it from a point of that when it comes to threat, the threats are directly related to two, three things. One is the payload. So when it comes to payload, it is obviously explosives or any other item which you are carrying it. I mean by payload, it comes to the height of flying from the point of ease of not getting detected. So when the rules are very clearly confining that only certain category of drones can only go in green zones and up to a height, I think they are very well taking care of it. So there is no additional risk. See, again, they'll have to, how the swarming of drones is very scary situation. How DGSA will be handling it? Again, the simple answer is through technology. It will happen through technology. You one need to see that what does a rule mean? A rule means basically a discipline. Now, if that discipline is broken, then there is a mechanism through which it is monitored and it is to bear. So the rules are going to be monitored. How they are going to be monitored? Through technology. And when technology will detect, then either the culprits will be bought, would be caught, or there will be counter mechanism to handle it, because drones, any wrong impact would mean instant. So it doesn't, yes, I agree, it cannot wait to really catch hold of the person and then punish them. It has to be handled immediately. So technology will hand, which is anti-drone technologies, and anti-drone technologies are today depend in terms of detection, which is through radio frequencies and by way of other methods also, through which the drones entering into or swarming would be picked up, and it will be taken care of. Even I don't mind saying that what happened recently was not because of any rules not being there. It was the breaking of the rules which allowed them to take, which is like doing a crime. So, we have to see to it the ecosystem is monitored by way of the criminals not being there or being monitored for not doing the wrong things. The rogue drone over no flying zone will be very dangerous. How no flying zone will be monitored? Well, as I presume and I know about, all no-fly zones are being strictly monitored by technology for unwanted or non-permissible activities. And no flying zone, not having allowed for drone flying, is always monitored. So if there are drones going into that area, there would be much before there would be reactions in terms of detection, alarms, and depending upon how sensitive is the target, there would be, based on that, there would be response in terms of technologies, whether it is counter missiles or whether it is jamming the drones and making them fall down and not functioning. But there are mechanisms which will happen. Yes, there is a possibility that such mechanisms may not be there available currently. I'm no one to comment on it, but I'm trying to explain that in such a case, it does not mean that that rules have a gap in it into it. The what is required is the counter mechanism need to be in place. Multi-story buildings are easy targets of drones in exempted category since payload has been increased. Till the time we see the whole activity from a point of, we that it is been done only from a point of drawing in the picture that a particular item is being picked up and it is being delivered. So in a multi-story, probably what you are reflecting is in such an activity, something goes wrong. But then let's not forget the activity is not limited only to that. It has to be also read from a point of view that who is doing the activity. Is he been asked to do the activity? Let's take a case of a small packet to be delivered in such resident apartments. So that has to be planned in the way of the person who has asked for the delivery, from whom he has asked. So those things will automatically keep a check on these. Uh, well, let's not imagine drones is still in the phase of wherein a drone flies to a balcony of a multi-story building. I'm sure we see that in a WhatsApp video only, and it probably knocks or it hands over a bottles, and we find, it's done. It's not that. It is still in the phase of uh, material deliveries or logistics, and once it does, then it will have a roadmap. It will have a roadmap well defined that how method has to be done, and I'm sure those methods will keep a check. Local administration reaction is questionable. QRTs don't even have PCR vehicles. Uh, yes, that's an area where we all face a lot of sufferings, and in a good security systems, whenever there is a detection, then response need to be as fast as, and QRT plays a very important role. So I would say yes, QRTs would be able to, would be very handy, would be very useful, and probably one will have to see the QRTs also from, not only from the point of their availability but their reaching of mechanism. But it may not be wrong to say that besides security, probably from technology point of view, something else may come in which may be able to give a faster response in terms of picking up the facts of the incident in tracking certain areas, and that would be a deterrent in terms, because in all these risk, what would matter, as in security also it matters, it is the deterrent which one need to build up to really. So there, yes, rules will counter. There it will be tracking mechanisms would counter those type of things. Gautam Gorodia has been asking about cameras on the drones. I must say yes, you are right, Gautam. Um, Cameras are like eyes to the drones, and most drones would always have cameras, because through the cameras only the paths or whatever applications we are doing, most applications require these cameras. But interestingly, these are cameras with very high end technologies also to do various functionings, and the results are tremendous. That's how the applications are very high. And addressing Gautam, I also wish to relate something which he does in CCTV also auditing. And again, why I'm relating it, because that mechanism also brings deterrent. So whatever happens in CCTV, and we all know a fact of CCTV that there's nobody who 24 hours sits and watch, and then it's not practical to go through the entire video. But then here is a software which does it. So again, it's a deterrent which has been built in. So in drones also, wherever there are risks, the technologies would come up and do it. Yes, the question could be, how does those technologies stand today and how good are they? I would imagine, well, they are definitely behind, not at the moment walking along with what is happening, and more has to be done. And I'm sure players would come in, and I would always encourage, those things to come. The security applications of drone and anti-drone technologies. Well, on the drone side of it, security applications are very exciting in the sense that, take the case of social security. I mean, there are areas where probably security authorities cannot reach very fast, and drones can do that. fastly, and they can do, since drones do it flying overseas, so they can get a better view and relate to many other aspects. Imagine security in a crowded area wherein something has happened or is going to happen or need to be monitored. Again, drones can do that very fast. From a security point of view, there are times when the crowd needs to be addressed and need to be guided. Public address could be done very effectively through the drones. Very crystal clear public addresses could be done, and guidance could be given on such things. So when it comes to security applications, yes, in other areas besides social security, like in mining, in infrastructure, in disaster management, again, these can help in giving better views and without getting biased, because they are machines. And then the best part is whatever they are watching is recorded. So accountability factors could be established on these drones. When it comes to anti-drone technologies, CPU security applications, a few very strong technologies are there. No doubt they are expensive, but they are practical. They are happening. These are more from the point of radio frequency aspects, and also from the point of counter hitting the drones and making them disable. So both sides are available and practical, and are happening in a good manner. Thank you very much. Please make closing remark and sum up. Well, I tried my best. I think before that, I would say that even though I'm not able to see others, but I would imagine there are participants and they would have enjoyed. I always foresee that my explanations or my narrations may have lacked few aspects of it, but as I said in the starting, I am not a complete expert. I'm like most of you, given a chance by Captain Tyagi to come and speak with you. So more than you, I think I'll be honest in admitting I get benefited, because I consider that way being part of this whole industry. And I would always like to be attached and wherever I can be helped. If taking the liberty, I would say, I'm sure Captain Tyagi will share. Thank you. My email ID, and thank you so much.